I don't know why my software is being so slow adding silences at the moment, but it is. I mean, those gaps sound pretty quiet to me, but I'm extremely uptight about silence. I need the silence to be silent. Oh my God. That's too big. Not going to be able to get rid of that one. That's unfortunate. You can't get rid of them all. You cannot achieve perfection. Right. There you go, but I did hear it while I was recording. Excellent. Excellent. Let's check the timing of that sentence. Yeah, no, that can be a lot shorter. Good. Why would you want to hang out with Winston? The man is an idiot. I can't imagine a worse drinking companion. A miserable idiot. Awesome. We do have... Oh, Julia's here. Hey! How you doing? You can hear my mic and you can't hear the desktop? Okay. Oh, what was this? Did you just give me $5, Jet? I wonder how I can link the actual editing audio as well. I can do that. No, I don't set that up here, do I? I set it up elsewhere. I will keep playing. I will attempt to get it right. Actually, no, that's no good at all, is it? So, what we do is whoa! Infinite OBS. Okay, so we add a audio input capture? No, audio output, right? Audio output should be from... Yes, from the desktop. So it's probably that one or that one. I think it will be... Let's try that one. Okay. Super Chat. Oh, neat. Oh, thank you very much. That's lovely. All right. So I think I have just turned this on. Let's see. Can you hear this software? Someone's at the door. Hold on a second. Hello? Oh my God. Ooh. I think that's my new microphone stand. That's amazing. I ordered it like 2 days ago. Anyway. Okay, so can you hear this? And the silence. And we'll see if Jet can hear.
Nothing yet? Okay, cool. Right, so that's a half-second gap for sure for a comma. Why is the silencing so slow?
No difference if it had been the other way about. He had always plenty of money now.
There you go, that's another half-second. And a nice long slow one.
Difference if it had been the other way about. He had always plenty of money nowadays. He even had a...
There we go, yes, that's fine and dandy, that's good, that's good. Splendid. Now, how's that? Hey, you can hear it? Oh, that's excellent. Oh, good, 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 good. Oh, that's so good. That's so excellent. How's the video quality? Is it as crapulent as I fear? I think the last time I tried to stream directly to YouTube, I could do it at like 360p or something like that. It was just terrible, terrible,
There's plenty
terrible.
of money nowadays. He even had a job, a sinecure. He even had a job, a sinecure, more highly paid than his old job had been. The music from the telescreen.
That's a full second. I should put my glasses on. I'm squinting like an old blind man, which is what I am.
More highly paid than his old job had been.
Where are my glasses? I am an old man. Hang on. I'll put them away somewhere. There we are. I found my glasses. Me put them somewhere on a table. I forgot immediately because I'm ancient. Alright. The video quality is good. Drops a couple of frames here and there, but can see what's going on. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I can really irritate people now by showing them
The front.
slow, breathy sounds. So we'll give it a huge
Bulletins
fade.
from the front, however. It was merely a brief announcement from the Ministry of Plenty.
Lovely. Ah. Well, I expect I'll have to get a big Twitch account now and become a famous billionaire Twitch streamer with my annoying editing that's incredibly boring for people to watch.
From the Ministry of Plenty. In the preceding quarter, it appeared the 10th three-year plan's quota for bootlaces had been overfulfilled.
Mm-hmm. Of course it was overfulfilled. The party never under-fulfills a promise. Never produces less shoes than are required, despite the fact that everyone's barefoot.
Had been overfulfilled. The 10th three-year plan's quota for bootlaces had been overfulfilled by 98%. In the preceding...
Yep, I think that is a better version of that line by far.
From the Ministry of Plenty. The 10th three-year plan's quota for bootlaces had been overfulfilled by 98%. He examined the chess problem.
Right. That is a full second break. I imagine you're probably watching me edit this and thinking, oh, that barbarian, he does everything just manually and never sets specific times and all that sort of thing.
98%.
I can be a bit more slapdash with audiobooks than musicians can.
98%. He examined the chess problem and set out the pieces.
Much more about the art of the feelings. What do I feel about this break? How long do I feel this gap should be?
He examined the chess problem and set out the pieces. It was a tricky ending, involving a couple of knights.
Bloody Knights. They were always the arsehole endings. Very hard in the newspaper. I used to play them when I was a kid. In high school, I was in the chess club.
Tricky ending.
Oh, I know what I should do. I should do that and that, shouldn't I? Then I don't have to... A music noise making stream. Yeah, that would be a great idea. Yeah, I dig it. I dig it. Yeah. I had similar thoughts with people feeling my, or hearing the lines that I did wrong. Whoa, really? Oh my word. Man, Bethesda really fucked up everything with Fallout 76, didn't they? Just everything. They seem to have done almost nothing right. Every time they could have cocked something up, they have done so with abandon. I'm just going to nip over to the twits and tell them that I'm streaming. There we go. Actually, I'll do that, and I'll also throw that over on my audiobooks thingamy-bob. Looks like James is having trouble seeing it. What does that say? Waiting for mix. What? Well, I don't have 6,000 subscribers. I'm not sure what he's clicked on. Who knows? Who knows? There we go. 404 not found. That's great. Stream URL. That is where I should be sending people, right? Okay, copied. I mean, that is that address. Oh well. There we go. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, that's life. That's okay. I'll try and fix it later. It's a real shame. I was... yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was the link to the stream. But, oh, wait. Do you mean the link to the stream for me or for other people? Is that the link that you followed to get here?
%. Of Knights. White to play and mate in 2 moves. Winston looked up. Play and mate in 2 moves. Winston looked up at the portrait of Big Brother. The portrait.
It's my job. It's my career. Panda Ninja Guy. Hello, welcome. How are you? Oh, sure. Okay, thanks, Julia. Here we go. 1 second break for a full stop. This is incredibly exciting, Panda Ninja. I hope you're thrilled by the non-stop editing action.
Winston looked up at the portrait of Big Brother. White always mates, he thought, with a sort of...
Oh, nice. Thank you very much. That's good. I've never actually... Well, this is my second attempt at streaming. I just thought I'd give it a go. It's nice to see some people might be interested. That's good.
With the portrait.
I hope you're not going to stay up too late watching this, though.
With the portrait of Big Brother. White always mates, he thought, with a sort of cloudy mysticism. To always mates, he thought, with a sort of...
I think that gap is a bit big.
To always mates, he thought, with a sort of cloudy mysticism. Always, without a cloudy...
Julia, by the way, Panda, is also like a streamer. She's a streamer friend of mine. She does lots of cool gaming stuff.
Cloudy mysticism. Always.
And musical stuff, too.
Cloudy mysticism. Always, without exception, it is so arranged.
Ah, cool. What classes you got?
Cloudy mysticism.
Are you in a high school or tertiary education somewhere?
Cloudy mysticism. Always, without exception, it is so arranged. Exception, it is so arranged.
What is that bang?
Always, without exception, it is
Good,
so
I
arranged.
did notice.
So arranged. Arranged.
Might just be my chair. Sometimes my chair makes annoying clicks in the middle of a really good line. It's a real pain.
Always, without exception, it is so arranged. In no chair.
Excellent. Good. No worries, Julia. Don't feel the need to hang around. Ah, there you go. Nice. Excellent. What are you studying to be? Do you have a specific plan?
It is so arranged. In no chess problems since...
It's not audiobook editor by any chance. You want to come and do this boring bit for me? So I can just do the fun bits of making an audiobook?
It is so arranged. In no chess problems since the beginning of the world has black ever won.
Hey, Jet, how you doing? Oh, here you go. Even better. Jet is a proper musician that has actually made... Jet wrote the theme song for 1984, and she also wrote like the music that I've used in the dream sequences and a few other things. And she is the star of Alice in Wonderland, which will be starting up soon. Hello, Jet. How you doing? Jet's one of my favourites. She's a good person. She's pretty great. All right. Another second. That was a second. I stopped paying attention. I'm talking to you guys. You're distracting me too much.
The world has black ever won. Did it not symbolize world?
Right. There you go. So a second again.
Ooh. Nice. No. That's good, though. You can help fix my brain after I finish recording 1984. This book is heavy, man. It has black ever won. Did it not symbolize the eternal, unvarying triumph of good over evil? The huge face gazed back. Okay, back for 1 second. Good over evil. The huge face gazed back at him, full of calm power. Gazed. That's right. In other statements, that gap between the two halves might be too big, but I think with this statement, it lends a nice weight. The huge face gazed back at him, full of calm power.
Oh, maybe not. Let's try trimming a little bit.
Huge face gazed back at him, full of calm power.
Too much. Let's halve that.
The huge face gazed back at him, full of calm power.
Perfect. This is why it takes me 2 weeks, by the way, to edit everything. I agonize over every tiny little thing.
Gazed back at him, full of calm power. White always mates.
$3.54. Lovely. Oh, gosh. My PC has had a real slowdown in this software recently. Just for the last few days,
Always.
adding those little patches of silence takes ages.
Always mates. The voice from the telescreen paused and added in a different and much graver tone. You are warned. Different.
Alright, so that's a very small gap.
And added in a different and much graver tone.
You are warned to...
Yep, good.
Different and much graver tone.
You are warned to stand by for an important announcement at 15:30. 15:30. This is news of the highest importance. Take care not to miss it. 15:30. 15.
Yeah, we're both in South Australia, way down near the near all the ice.
15:30. 15:30. 15.
We have a messy F. I hate a messy F. There's a tendency to go too much at the start of an F word, and I quite often just cut off big chunks of the F, because you can't hear it, and it sounds messy if you leave it. Sloppy, terrible.
15:30. 15:30. This is news of the highest importance.
Yeah, I've been doing it for, well, a while. Quite a while. quite a while before folks started listening. Well, that's good. I like it. You can thank my lady wife. She's the one who really liked the audiobooks, even while no one else was listening to them. I kept making them for her.
15:30. This is news of the highest importance. Take care not to miss it. 15:30.
I think so, man. I really like them. Jet's probably bored to tears of hearing this, but I grew up listening to BBC audiobooks with their fantastic, presentations of the soundscape and setting up the scenes and the sound effects and all that sort of stuff. But anytime, they were all made for the radio, of course, BBC radio, so they couldn't do a full novel. They'd do a little dramatization. Their version of 1984 takes 1 hour, The whole story is 1 hour, but the soundscaping and the sound effects are brilliant, of course. But it just seemed like no one was doing full unabridged versions of novels with all the soundscaping and special effects. So I thought, I'll start doing that with Brave New World, and people really liked it. So I'll keep doing it because I love doing it, and if people like listening to it, then it's well worth it.
And not to
I have spent plenty of years making things that people don't like.
And not to miss it. 15:30. In the preceding quarter.
No, that's just a comma, not a full stop. The Goon Show was excellent.
This is news of the highest importance. Take care not to miss it.
No, Min. I'm behind the rosewood piano, Min. Which one, Henry? How many have we got? Sorry, I could do the Goons all day. Do you often stream the editing? This is the first one. This is the first time I've ever done this, Panda, but yeah, I might keep doing it in future if people are interested in watching, for sure. Yeah, great. No, I'm stoked you found Brave New World. That was probably the first one where I felt my skills really coming together. Before that, you can hear sort of hints of me working on stuff and building up, but yeah, Brave New World is when it all finally worked, I think. But yes, you should go to bed if you've got classes tomorrow. I don't know what time it is in Ohio, but I get the idea that it's probably pretty late.
Overfulfilled by 98%. Announcement at 15:30. 15:30.
Anytime I think of Blue Bottle and Eccles, I think of when he had the time in his pocket on a piece of paper. Someone was kind enough to write it down for him that morning.
Announcement at 15:30. 15:30. This is news of the highest importance. Take care not to miss it. 15:30. In the preceding quarter, the 10th three-year plan's quota for bootlaces has been overfulfilled by 98%.
That line. See, this line here, this is not actually in the novel. This is me deciding that I wanted to use this voice in an earlier scene when the radio announcer is talking about, we just edited it a little while ago.
The 10th three-year plan's quota for bootlaces has been overfulfilled.
Right, that bit. So I decided I wanted to take this bit later on, and I will actually overlay it over that earlier section. I've done it a few times with James Whitrow, who was playing the telescreen in the early chapters. Overlaid his lines with mine. I like the effect. I think it's good.
Fulfilled by 98%. The tinkling.
That's not 1 second. That was 2 seconds, you absurd Steve. There you go. Delete that.
98%. The tinkling music struck up again. Winston's heart. The tinkling music struck up again. Winston's heart soared. Oh. Winston's heart. Winston.
Oh, did I I changed my mind there, did I?
Winston's heart soared. Oh,
That sounds pretty good. What was
Winston's heart.
it? 11 p.m. Nice. Excellent. Thanks, Panda. Thanks for dropping in. That was awesome, dude. Hope to see you in the future. Good luck with your studies and sleep well.
Winston's heart soared. Oh. Winston's heart stirred.
Oh,
That was the Winston.
that's why, because I got the word wrong. All right, neat.
Winston's heart stirred. That was the bulletin from the front. Heart stirred. That was the bulletin from the front. Instincts told him that...
A breath.
Instinct...
A breath. The evil demon breath from our filthy monkey lungs. Get out of my audiobook.
That was the bulletin from the front. Instincts told him that it was bad news that was coming. All day.
Okay, in 1 second, full stop, go. Concurrent viewers, are they the people that are here at the moment?
That was coming.
Oh,
day
John, how you
with
doing,
little
mate? John is the director, creator, writer person of the Borderlands film that I was making the other week. John, this is Jet, who does like all the good music for my channel. All the crap music I did, all the good music Jet did. Yeah.
Bad news that was coming.
Oh, just going to check my messages. Sorry, folks. All right, that's the correct link, is it, Jeff? Okay, cool.
Bad news that was coming. All day, with little spurts of excitement, the thought of a smashing defeat in Africa had been in and out of his mind.
Yeah, it won't be long, mate. I mean, this is the last chapter I'm editing now. So, yeah. I think... Let's see, what has just gone up? Was that... I think that was... on YouTube, they just got 19, I believe. Yep, 19. There we go.
Had been in and out of his mind. He seemed actually to see the Eurasian army swarming across the never-broken frontier and pouring down
Thought so, that's a very
the
small
never-broken frontier and pouring down never-broken frontier and pouring down.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's all right. Just make sure it's smooth. Ah, you're watching it on your phone?
Frontier.
Yeah, I'm not sure my my connection is very, very good. So yeah, it's going to drop out from time to time, I think. Oh no, I can't grab that on stream.
Frontier and pouring down into the tip of Africa like a column of ants.
I was about to jump into your private messages to me on Facebook, Jet, so I could get that link and copy it to other people. I'll just put that up on the stream. You won't mind that, will you? Nah, that'll be right.
Ants.
Fucking idiot, Steve. Oh my god. I'm really dumb sometimes.
Like a column of ants. Why had it not been
That doesn't feel like a 1 second break to me. Let's see.
like a column of ants?
No, definitely not. It's a breath.
A column of ants. Why had it not been possible to outflank them in some way? The outline of the...
Okay, this one is a second though. Yeah, okay, dig it. I might, I mean, if people are actually interested in watching this and I get, you know, consistent viewers, I'll look at paying for a faster connection so I can actually stream regularly.
Why had it not been possible to outflank them in some way? The outline of the West African coast stood out vividly in his mind. He picked up the white nut.
This is another second. There we go.
Vividly in his mind, he picked up the White Knight. He picked up the White Knight and moved it up.
Sure.
He picked up the White Knight and moved it across the board.
I like that SoundForge makes it so easy to zoom in and out of the timeline. I've worked with software before where that's been, you know, a separate click. You have to go down and zoom in and out and come back and whatnot. This is much better. Just do it on the mouse wheel.
And moved it across the board. He picked up the White Knight and moved it across the board. There, the outline of the West African coast stood out vividly in his mind. He picked up the White Knight and moved it across the board. He picked up the White Knight and moved it across the board.
What was the difference
There, he
between
picked
those
up-
two? Sometimes, I swear, when I'm recording, I think, oh, that line reading was terrible, I'll do it again, and then I'll read it again. And when it comes to the actual editing now, I cannot for the life of me hear the difference between the two readings. But at the time, it seemed like life and death. Right, okay, good. Well, I suspect if this stream is any good at all, it's probably just because of the excellent native settings in OBS Studio. I will eventually get bored of the infinite window, I'm sure, but not today.
The White Knight and moved it across the board. There was the proper spot. There was the proper spot.
Okay, where does that go into? Stephen! Don't burp into the mic.
Even while he
So
saw the
rude.
black horse there.
I'm not sure I can edit my streaming, actually. You might hear all sorts of terrible noises.
The White Knight and moved it across the board. There was the proper spot. Even while he saw...
Okay, that feels like, I mean, at most it's going to be 1 second.
Here, let me show you my sound effects folder. All the different assorted things. And down here we've got Weird Sound 1. I'll give you 100 points if you can tell what this is. Can you hear that? It's a bit quiet. A 1,000 points if you can tell what that sound is. I know, oh, I had to be. You start getting like 1,000 sound effects and it's like, oh, okay, I want that sound of the little girl screaming while running down the grass with bare feet. Where have I got that? Yeah. And once you've got, like, you know, a few different versions of, my little animals there. And, wait, we'll get it smaller so you can see them all. There we go. Puppies, various, you know, things like that. Rat furious, rat scream. That came up in the last couple of chapters. We've got lots and lots of, like, you know, we've got the crowds here and other people for more individual sounds and, you know, that sort of thing. Different footsteps, you know, they start adding up really, 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 really quickly. And of course in the music in here, oh, I've got some wonderful stuff. There's some stuff from Jet and some more stuff from Jet and some other stuff from Jet and some stuff from Patient Zero. It's good. And other things that I've either written or stolen from old public domain videos and whatnot. You get them from everywhere. Yeah, dig it. Yep. But you're working with probably, you know, what, 300 or 400 different sounds for each song you make or something like that, and probably 20 different versions of each sound before you're happy with it.
There was the proper spot. Even while he saw the black horde racing southward, he saw another force.
That's okay, that's good.
mysteriously assembled, suddenly planted in their rear, cutting their communication.
You gotta let us know if you decide to do a music-making stream. I'd be really interested to watch that.
In their rear, cutting their communications by land and sea.
Yeah, right. There you go. See, I stockpile them all for future use, because you never know when I'm going to want the sound of a leather glove rustling as you drop it to the ground, you know? Oh, in fact, quite often, I even steal them for use in other things. We've got, where is it? It's under Things. Talk about your miscellaneous folders. We've got Things, which is essentially inanimate objects, I guess. And I'm looking for metal bed. No. See, even now with, here we go. Creaking metal springs bed. I think it's the second one. No, it's this one. Yeah, this one. Come on, load up. Don't embarrass me, you slow computer. Oh, it is embarrassing me. Anyway, it sounded much the same as that last sound, and I actually used it for the like cuffs of when Winston was strapped down to a chair. We just stole a couple of little sounds from, you know, a creaking metal camp bed, and that did perfectly. Actually, it's not backed up at all. Oops. I should probably do that. Yeah. I don't even have my audiobooks backed up. They just all sit there. There you go. Everything I've ever done, starting from frickin' 2009. Yeah, that's when I started this. It's taken 10 years to get to the point where it's listenable.
Land and sea. Cutting their communications by land and sea. Cutting their communications by land and sea.
Right, I ran out of breath at the end of that line. That's why I did it again. Sure.
Cutting their communications by land and sea.
Yeah, I've even got like some old hard drives from the old computers. I didn't throw them away. I've got them sitting up on a shelf somewhere. So I should just set them up as storage. That would be good. I mean, for the sound effects library in particular, for the audiobooks, I like having the originals, but I also know they are, you know, they're stored elsewhere. Patreon's got them, YouTube's got them, you know. Yeah, that's it. And I have pulled a bit of a bodgy with my C drive in this current system, because I started, when I originally bought this system like 5 years ago, I had, I think, a 100 megabyte or 200 megabyte solid state drive just for Windows, and that got filled up really quickly as soon as I started editing. It seems like every program I've got dumps something on the C drive and just goes, oh, you don't mind if I put this here, do you? It's like, no, I don't want any of you putting anything on the C drive, but, you know, blah. So eventually I went and got this fucking beast, this terabyte solid state drive, and that's my C drive now, so it can keep filling stuff up there forever. But I've still got the old one, which I'd happily use as a backup. I think for that sort of thing, that would be good.
By land and sea.
But I am slightly worried about the new one, because I didn't actually reinstall Windows. I just I did a what do they call it, a drive clone. It just copied the old hard drive completely onto the new hard drive. So it's possibly a little bit wobbly, I'm not sure. But it's time for a proper update to everything soon, I think. I'm still on Windows 7, and they are about to stop support for Windows 7, so...
By land and sea. He felt that by willing it, he was bringing that...
That's our breath, there's our breath. Filthy breath. Is that going to get rid of all of it?
Willing it, he was bringing that...
Yeah.
He felt that by willing it...
Alright, neat, I did it again. Good.
He felt that by willing it, he was bringing that other force into existence. But it was necessary.
Okay.
He was bringing that other force into existence. But it was necessary.
Yep, great. That's no problem. Yeah, I don't know if it'll be complete new PC. Most of this stuff is still okay. I definitely need a new motherboard and a new CPU, and I need a new operating system installed over the top. So yeah, it'll be a fairly big one. The video card's still pretty new. The RAM I bought really recently. I got 32 gig because I believe in overkill, apparently. That's way more than anyone will ever need, but you know, we said that about personal computers back in the day. You'll have up to 5 in a nation, and they'll be the size of a small library. Wasn't that it? Something like that. Yeah. I predict that in the next 20 years, there may be as many as 4 computers. Yeah.
That other force into existence, but it was necessary to act quickly. If they could get control of the whole...
That's another 1 second. Easy peasy. I tell you what I'm really excited about though, Jed. I want to get together with some carpentry people and some sound people and try and design a small portable soundproof recording studio about the size of a bedroom cupboard. If I can do that, so good, so good. No more of this blanking out background noise whether I hear it or not. It'll be fine, it'll be fine. It'll be so good. Hopefully there'll be enough room in there for a person with a microphone and a guitar. That would be nice. That would be good.
If they could get control of the whole of Africa, if they had air...
Yeah, I don't even know if it's possible, and if it's possible it might, cost a lot more than I'm willing to spend, but man, it would be good. Well, I know quite a skeezy individual actually that I used to know, pretty horrible guy, but he did something like that in his backyard where he sort of partitioned off part of his garage and sort of made that soundproof, cause he and his mates were into the hip hop in it, and they was out there rapping, going, we got nothing to say but we'll pretend that we do, we're driving in our cars and they all look like poo cause we're terrible rappers and we're totally crap, and even Steve can see that. That's, yeah. There you go. Yeah, nice. See, I had everyone I know gather egg cartons for quite a while, and I sort of stuck them all onto a cardboard, box, and put that behind my monitor just to help bounce the sound and refract it and stuff, and it actually worked really well. You'll be amazed what you can pull off with a bit of cheapness. The pop filter that I'm using right now is a coat hanger, an old wire coat hanger made into the shape of a circle, and with pantyhose sewn around the edge of it, and that it works really, really, really well. It's really good. I have almost no desire to go and buy a proper one because the one I made works just fine.
For Africa.
Egg cartons are great. They're the perfect shape for just, refracting the sound to make sure you don't get solid echoes back in your mic, yeah.
For Africa, if they had airfields, if they had airfields and submarines...
Again, hey? Alright, that's fine.
The whole of Africa. If they had airfields and submarine bases at the Cape, it would cut Oceania at the Cape.
That's my least favorite breath. It's the one when the actor is excited and they're still saying their line, and there's no break between the last sound and the breath.
Bases at the Cape.
Yeah, so this is the trick I found. You actually start the fade out before the end of the word. So you can actually make it stop straight after the P. Oh, absolutely. MacGyver shaped a surprisingly large amount of my life. I'm really glad that I saw MacGyver as a kid and that I was also poor, because it meant that just making things that would do the job was like, yeah, MacGyver does it, so now I can do it. It's awesome. I make little crappy things all the time, rather than buy them.
Bases at the Cape. It would cut Oceania in two. Yeah, in two. Yeah, in two. In two. Two. It might mean anything. It might mean anything. Defeat. Breakdown. The redivision of the world.
This was a really hard scene for me to record because I'm not sure exactly how Winston feels about this. It's a little bit subjective. I think I might actually have to re-record some stuff because he's hearing about the potential fall of Oceania and the party, and this is after he's been absolutely broken by the ministry. So how does he feel about this news? Is he still, sort of pleased at the thought that the institution might fall, or has he been so completely rewritten that he's terrified that all of this might fall? He's desperately worried about the potential invasion. Is he happy about the thought, or is he sad about the thought? It's a tricky one.
It might mean anything. Defeat. Breakdown. The redivision of the world.
In the end, I tried to perform it sort of neutrally, so that the reader can make up their own mind. And I don't normally do that. I like to pick a side. I know that's not right, but I'm not a journalist. I'm a performer, So, yeah, I try and sort of decide how I think the character's going to feel and perform it like that. But in this case, I tried to keep it pretty neutral.
It might mean anything. Defeat. Breakdown. The redivision of the world. The destruction of the party.
What an idea, Winston. How do we feel about that? The destruction of the party. About the only sort of craft thing that I thought of with that line in particular is how I dropped it at the end to bring it closer to a whisper, because it's perhaps even a shameful thing to say or think about, whether or not you think it would be good or bad.
The destruction of the party.
The destruction of the party. Quiet. Shh. Someone might be listening.
He drew a deep breath. An extraordinary
Yeah, absolutely. I'm normally pretty good with making those big decisions, and I'm quite happy to. If I believe in a specific delivery, I'll do it. I don't care if other people would disagree or not. That's up to the audience. They can always say, Steve is poo, and never listen to me again. That sucks, but they can do that. But yeah, this one, I seriously agonized for a few hours over basically just those few lines. Oh, excellent. Good. I'm glad it's enjoyable. Or interesting, or both.
Ordinary medley of feeling. But it was not a medley exactly. Deep breath. An extraordinary medley of feeling.
There you go. See, he's saying it himself. It's possible that even Winston doesn't know how he feels about this.
An extraordinary medley of feeling. But it was not a medley exactly.
In fact, that's probably pretty likely, isn't it? Don't you think? I mean, he's been reprogrammed. He's been, fixed, end quote. But how much is still Winston underneath?
But it was not a medley exactly. Rather,
is he a new person or a broken Winston? There's a few little hints that I think lean towards broken Winston rather than new person that just lives by the party, but yeah.
Medley of feeling. But it was not a medley exactly. Rather, it was a successive layers. Rather, it was successive layers of feeling. Successive layers. Rather, it was a success. Rather.
Ah, good, good, good. I mean, that is also what the audience mostly asked for. Not by a lot. The margins weren't huge, but mostly they were interested in performance.
Rather, it was successive layers of feeling, in which one could not.
Although I think the only, that was by votes, the only actual comment we got was from someone who was really interested in the sound effects and how we make them, how we put them together.
Layers of feeling, in which one could not say which layer was undermost, struggled inside him.
Nice. That's fine, that's good.
Inside him. The spasm passed.
The spasm passed. That's an important line as well, don't you think? It's like whatever. I mean, to me, that sort of suggests an internal struggle that's going on. The spasm passed as his, the maelstrom inside is dying down or whatever. Covering some soundscaping this stream. Not this one, no. It's just going to be editing until I finish this master file, which is a long way off. We are 7 minutes in, and it's a 40-minute file. It was 44. We've already cut off 4 minutes of tiny little bits, which reminds me I should do a safety save. I certainly will in other streams though. I'll make sure that they're all properly labeled or whatever. I have to be very uptight with myself, or I don't get the work done in the proper order. Like I made the big mistake of doing Alice weekly and 1984 fortnightly during the production cycle. It absolutely should have been the other way around.
He put the white, and he could not settle down, but for the moment, he could not settle down to serious study of the chess problem. His thoughts. Serious study of the chess problem. His thoughts wandered again. His study of the chess problem. His thoughts wandered again.
Nice.
Almost unconsciously.
That should be about a second, as is, hey? Pretty close. Pretty close.
Again. Almost unconsciously, he traced with his finger in the dust on the table. 2 plus...
Poor old
the
Winston.
dust on the table. 2 plus 2 equals 5.
While editing the, 2 plus 2 equals 5 section during Winston's torture scene, I was reminded of Star Trek The Next Generation. They have an episode where Jean-Luc Picard, their mighty captain, is abducted by the evil Cardassians, and they're basically reenacting 1984 in the guise of a Star Trek episode, with the difference, of course, that since Picard is such a hero, at the end, he's rescued, actually, or released or something like that, and he gets to yell back, there are 3 lights, or whatever, because they changed the numbers, of course. They were showing him 4 lights and saying there were 3 lights, or something like that, But he got the better of them, unlike Winston. It's like, yes, we'll reenact this classic old novel, except because it's TV, our heroes have to win. It's like, well, why did you bother? Why did you bother? Because it's not a story about winning. It's a story about crushing defeat. It's a warning for the future, It's awfully presentient in some ways, but yeah.
Equals 5. They can't get inside you, she had said. But they could get inside you.
Yeah.
Can't get inside you, she had said.
Right, so we wanted out that there.
They can't get inside you, she had said, but they could get inside.
Perfect. Perfect.
Inside you, she had said, but they could get inside you. What happened to you here?
Well, a half second for this one, I think. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this potentially was the one that was going to come first. I was going to do this instead of Brave New World, except that Alice had studied 1984 extensively in high school, and she had never read Brave New World, so we made that one first.
Inside you. What happened to you here is... What happened...
Is that too fast?
Inside you, she had said, but they could get inside you. What happens to you here is forever,
okay.
O'Brien had said. That was a true...
Some awful dry, clicky tongue.
Forever, O'Brien had said. That.
Oh, really? Ah, let me see. I might have left sort of excess sources coming around. They did not clean up my work. Yes, that sounds likely. There should just be, yeah, one of each of them, shouldn't there? So that's the Yeti output. That's, okay, so that can be removed, can't it? We'll get rid of that one. Yes. Display is that. That's that. Right, and that one can go. Okay. So hopefully I didn't just mess everything up. Let me know if I screwed everything up completely.
O'Brien had said. That was a true word. That was a...
Oh, I think there's a little semi-breath in there. It's not quite a breath, but you can still sort of hear it, you know. Fixed? Excellent. Good, good, good.
word.
Thank you very much for jumping on, by the way, Jet. This is incredibly helpful. To have an experienced streamer to tell me what I'm doing wrong and what I'm doing right.
That was a true word. There were things, your own acts, from which... There were things, your own acts.
Right. There's something I've noticed that's really weird. When you have the timing of a sentence, right, and then you blank out a breath like I did here, all of a sudden the timing of the sentence is completely shifted. It's like it relied on that breath in the middle like a sort of foundation so the sentence could maintain its timing. And when you take out the breath, you actually have to trim out a bit of time just to keep the balance of the sentence straight.
There were things, your own acts.
Yeah, so quite often I used to just try and get the two ends of the breath and delete it. You can hear that in the island of Dr. Moreau, where I was still sort of learning what I was doing, but it just sounds too savage. That's why I do all the fading now. Every single sound has a fade out, you know, no matter how small, you know, just to make sure everything can die away in its own time, you know, unless there's something I really have to stop.
You could never recover. Like a breath. You could never recover. Something was your own acts from which you could never recover.
That's a really important point, particularly for young folks reading the book, I think.
There were things, your own acts, from which you could never recover.
You know, I know as a young fella in particular, I was running around doing all sorts of things, and I really never thought about the consequences to myself or other people. And there's some that you just cannot recover from. There's definitely friends that I've lost just because I was a dickhead in some way.
From which you could never recover. Something was killed in your breast. Burned out.
Yeah, quite right, quite right. I will even, from time to time, I think maybe 2 or 3 times during 1984, I've actually left in a breath just because it really suited the character work, you know?
Something was killed.
Particularly when Winston was being tortured and you would expect breathing, you know? I was talking to actually one of the other YouTube audiobook makers about this exact thing, because he leaves all breaths in during any spoken, piece of dialogue or whatever. And I used to do that, and I do not do that anymore. I think it's still messy. But I will, if a character is panicked or if they're out of breath or something like that, then I'll leave the breath in. But other than that, they have all got to go. Something was killed in your breast. Burned out. Cauterized out. All right, now, here's a tricky one. Not actually particularly tricky. You just have to make sure that this gap is the same size as this gap, and at the moment we can clearly see that this one's a bit larger. So we're just going to trim that down a little bit to make sure that timing is perfect. I change my timing all the time, and other actors as well. Something was killed in your breast. Burned out. Cauterized out. I think that's probably a little too long too, so we'll cut something off both of them. Something was killed in your breast. Burned out. Cauterized. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Nope, nope, nope. Not that much. Something was killed in your breast. Burned out. Cauterized out. Yes, good, good, good. There was no danger. There was no danger in it. He knew there was no danger in it. There was no danger in it. Ah, right. I decided I really wanted to hit that no, but that's okay. We don't need that. That's fine. Sometimes recording Steve and editing Steve disagree on how things should sound. There was no danger in it. He knew, as though instinctively, that they now took almost no interest in his doings. He could have arranged a interest. Sure. So that's a full second for that one. Ugh, why is it so slow, this stupid software? It never used to be this slow. I don't know why it suddenly started doing it. No interest in his doings. He could have arranged to meet her a second time if either of them had wanted to. Actually, it was by chance them had... Okay. Fade out. If either of them had wanted to. Oh, that might be a little bit abrupt. I know the actual line recording was abrupt, but we'll see if we can stretch it out a bit. Either of them had wanted to. Actually, it was by chance that sounds. Either of them had wanted to. Yep. Actually, it was by chance that they had met. It was in the park. That's fine. That they had met. It was in the park, on a vile, biting deck. That sounds all right. It was in the park, on a vile, biting... might be a bit long. It was in the park, on a vile, biting day better. In March, when the earth was like iron. When the earth... Day in March, when the earth was like iron. Good. Oh yes, we're ripping through it now. Day in March, when the earth was like iron. Actually, having passed 8 minutes, time for a safety save. When in March. Wakey. Always keep 2 copies of your files, in case one gets corrupted. Blasted things happens more often than you'd like. Fighting day in March, when the earth was... Hey, I've lost that chat window. There we go, that's better. Fighting day in March, when the earth was like iron and all the grass seemed dead, and there was not a bud any... I'm going to try trimming that down to see how it does with a shorter space. Grass seemed dead, and there was not a bud anywhere. Yeah, I think that's okay. I think during recording I really wanted to hit dead. But it doesn't actually need that much emphasis.
And then all the grass seemed dead, and there was not a bud anywhere.
Well, I didn't like that recording at all.
It was in the park, on a vile, biting day in March, when the earth was like iron, and all the grass seemed dead, and there was not a bud anywhere except a few crocuses which had pushed themselves up. It was
Okay, sure. So
it was in the park.
yeah, all right. Let's go with that one because it flows better. It's all together. Safety saves, so important, man. So important. Yeah. I used to think that. Yeah, that's it. I can always hear whenever I've suddenly changed my mind in recording because I'm like, no, that wasn't good. But yeah, I used to think that, if you bought proper software and you spent enough and everything, it'd all be fine and everything would be so stable. But, even the top-of-the-line best programs in the world still crash, so safety saves.
Actually, it was by chance that they had met. It was in the park, on a vile, biting day in March, when the earth was like iron, and all the grass seemed dead, and there was not a bud anywhere except a few crocuses which had pushed themselves up to be dismembered.
Yes. I don't demand of myself that I actually speak sentences without breathing. I'm quite happy to break. I just give myself a gap in the recording so I can delete it afterwards.
And there was not a bud anywhere except a few crocuses which had pushed themselves up to be dismembered by the wind.
Oh, thank you, Viva. Viva? Benfica. Viva Benfica. Cool name.
Pushed themselves up to be dismembered by...
Oh, that was a bump. You could hear that, couldn't you? That was a big gap there.
Themselves up to be dismembered.
No, that's awful. Oh, shit. Okay. Don't panic. We'll just see if we can smooth it out.
Crocuses which had pushed themselves up to be dismembered.
I don't know.
Pushed themselves up to be dismembered.
Oh, gosh. Oh, what have I done?
Which had pushed themselves up to be dismembered.
Oh, no. It's not right, is it? It's not right. It's not good. Let's see. Maybe with a bit more of a gap.
Which had pushed themselves up to be dismembered.
Oh, maybe.
Crocuses which had pushed themselves up to be dismembered.
Maybe if we trim just a little bit more, that might sound okay.
Pushed themselves up to be dismembered by the wind.
Alright, good. I don't have to re-record that. Sometimes everything just slots together brilliantly. Sometimes I hear a break in the sound that's like the frickin' Grand Canyon, man. And you have to try and smooth it out. And if you can't do it, you have to re-record.
Themselves up to be dismembered by the wind. Anywhere except a few...
Alright, let's listen to that sentence, see how it sounds all together, hey? Eyes shut.
It was in the park, on a vile, biting day in March, when the earth was like iron, and all the grass seemed dead, and there was not a bud anywhere except a few crocuses which had pushed themselves up to be dismembered by the wind.
That sounds alright. Ah, good. Okay. Heart attack over, on to the next bit. Do you think I might be a little bit too uptight about these things?
By the wind, which had pushed themselves up to be dismembered by the wind.
And then I fixed it anyway! Ah, God!
Crocuses, which...
alright.
Crocuses, which had pushed...
So that's the witch.
Which had pushed...
Yep.
Which had...
Well, they might not blend either. They might not blend. We'll see.
A few crocuses, which had pushed themselves up to be dismembered by the wind.
Damn it, it fits perfectly. All that work was wasted. Oh well, no matter. As long as it sounds good, that's all we care about. Oh, I'm such an idiot.
Themselves up to be dismembered by the wind. He was hurrying along with frozen hands and watering eyes when he saw her. Not 10 meters away. Frozen hands and watering eyes when he saw. Watering eyes. Little clickering eye. Okay. Eyes. Let's see if we can do this bit of magic. Eyes. 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 Eyes.
Back a bit.
Okay, there's the click. It's in the middle there. Now, if we delete this wrong, you're going to be able to hear it in the word. But if we do it right, no one will ever know. Now, can we see the waveforms, how it goes down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. As long as you blend them correctly, you delete it at the right point, it will be fine. So we've got an up wave here, so we want it to lead onto a down wave over here. So we'll delete that, and hopefully this will be fine.
Watering eyes when he... Frozen hands and watering eyes when he saw her.
You can't always do that. You can't always get rid of the click that smoothly, but on this occasion, that worked. Brilliant. Happy with that. Happy with that.
Hands and watering eyes when he saw her. Not 10 meters away from him. Not 10 eyes when he saw her. Not 10 meters away. Not 10 watering eyes when he saw her. Not 10 meters away from him.
I swear a lot of this has been helped by the fact that I was raised by a musician. So I have a good ear for, you know, rhythm and melody. It helps a lot, I think.
Not 10.
I might be lying to myself, but I think it helps.
Not 10.
If you have a musical ear, I think these things might be a bit easier.
Not 10 meters away from him. It struck him at once that she had changed in watering eyes when he saw her. Not 10 meters away from him. It struck him at once that she had changed in some ill-defined... Struck him at once...
I think I've missed a word there.
Struck him at once that she...
It's supposed to be it struck him at once, surely.
Struck him at once that she had changed in...
Bit of lazy speaking there, Steve. I'm going to have to note that down. Hold on. 822. Okay, so I can get rid of my personal little notes there. 822. It struck him at once. That, what's the rest of the line?
Struck him at once that she had changed in some ill-defined way.
There we go. Once that she had changed in some ill-defined way. Cool. I will record that later on, and I will paste it in.
Struck him at one way. They almost passed one way.
Yeah, I think so, Jet. I really do. I agree. Hey, how out of whack is the timing between the chat and my voice responses? There's probably quite a gap, yeah?
Find way. They almost passed one another. Where the... They almost passed one another. Where the...
I'm a professional talker.
One another. Where the... One another. Where the... One another. Where the...
Do you want that? Do you want that as a sample, Jet? I can send that through to you if you want to use that in a song or something.
One another. Where's the? 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 One another. Where's the?
All right, stop messing around, Steve. You've got work to do.
They almost passed one another without a sign. They almost passed one another without a sign.
Yes, third time's the charm.
Defined way. They almost passed one another without a sign.
Oh my god. Ooh, we got 3 watchers. That's lovely. Hello, folks. How are you all?
They almost passed one another without a sign. Then he turned and followed her, not without a sign.
Right, that's a half-second gap. I must have needed a breath when I was recording. That happens a lot. half second for a comma, full second for a full stop.
One another without a sign. Then he...
Depending on the pace of the book. For 1984, because it's a very... alright, I'm going to use some actor words at you, but, so they're going to sound extra wanky compared to normal language, but I hope you'll get the idea of what I'm trying to say. 1984 is a pushing book. It's a pressure book, right? If you imagine it's like a huge stone block that you just pushing slowly and steadily, and it does not stop, and it has a steady, slow rhythm all the way through. It's just this pressing thing. It's awful, big, slow, cumbersome. So it's got a kind of a slow rhythm to it, a slow pace, right? So a full second for full stops, half a second for commas. Alice in Wonderland, the other one that I'm editing at the moment, is a light, flippy, it's a fantastic story. It's mostly up in the air, right? It's not attached to the ground. It's in actor terms, it's a cutting book, a slicing book, not because of the danger involved, but just because of the shape of the sounds and the speed of the tempo, right? It's very, very fast. Click, 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 click. Especially, dialogue is really quick. Everyone's sort of tumbling over each other's words. So having a big 1 second pause for every full stop there is too much. So I go 0.75 seconds for a full stop. Commas are usually around either 0.4 of a second or sometimes more. I do stay with the half a second for a comma just because that seems to fit pretty well. It's not a solid rule. You change it if the sentence needs it. But yeah, for the most part, second for a full stop for a slow pushing book. Yeah.
They almost passed one another without a sign.
I hope that wasn't too wanky. In acting school, I swear half of what I learned was just how to wank with other actors. It's terrible, terrible.
To sign. Then he turned and followed her, not very eagerly. And he...
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I probably don't actually need to silence half of the breaks that I do. I'm so uptight about it.
Then he turned and followed her, not very eagerly. He knew that there was no...
Okay. That's just not a particularly well-written sentence. Or, no, that's not true. That's a mean and judgmental way of me to say it. It's a sentence that doesn't necessarily flow as well in audio as it does when written on the page.
Not very eagerly. He knew that there was no danger. Nobody would take any interest in him. She did not speak. He would...
I think half a second for that one. That feels like another comma. Yeah, that's it. Totally. Exactly right, Jet. 1984 is a huge boulder, and Alice in Wonderland is a red cordial high. I like your nice PC version of that, by the way.
Take any interest in him.
I probably would have said mescaline and MDMA, but red cordial's fine.
Take any interest in him. She did not speak. She walked obliquely away.
God, these people are so dreary, aren't they? What I really hate about Winston, though, is how dumb he is. Oh, God. It's like the first 2 books of 1984 are just full of, basically the Ministry going, are you going to fall into this trap? Oh, he did. Look. All right, let's set up an even more obvious one. Are you going to fall into that trap? Oh my God, he fell into that too. All right. Let's get really ridiculous. Make an incredibly obvious trap and see if oh my God, he just walked right into it. Oh, Winston. You deserve the rats, mate.
Nobody would take any interest in him. She did not speak. She walked obliquely away across...
That's a little bit too long, that gap.
She did not speak. She walked obliquely away across the grass as though trying to get rid of him, and seemed to resign herself. Good.
It's not always specific timing. Artistic license rules. All right, what you feel, you go with what you feel. What sounds right to you, what hits your ears properly.
As though trying to get rid of him, and seemed to resign herself to having him at her side.
Come on, tell me you re-recorded that.
She did not speak.
Thank you.
She did not speak.
Good, there we are.
She did not speak.
I probably didn't change those first two sentences very much at all, did I?
She did not speak. She walked obliquely away across the grass as though trying to get rid of him, then seemed to resign herself.
Mm-hmm. Good, so we'll just use that last bit, since the rest of it's fine.
She walked obliquely away across the grass as though trying to get rid of him, then seemed to resign.
Some excess space there. We'll just clean that up.
Across the grass as though trying to get rid of him, then seemed to resign herself to having him at her side.
Good.
Presently herself to having him at her side. Her side.
Ooh.
Her side.
Clicky clicky.
Her side. Her side. Her side. 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 Side.
Oh
side.
dear. We might be in trouble. If it's in the middle of that sound there, we might not be able to do much about it.
Side. 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 Side.
Oh, where is it?
Side.
I think it's there. All right. It's there, isn't it? Ooh, it's a big one. All right, let's see.
At her side. To having him at her side.
Fine. Good. Good, 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 good. Clicks and pops and noises and whatnot are the worst.
Having him at her side. Presently they were in amongst a clump. Presently they were in among a clump of ragged, leafless shrubs.
That mistake I make all the time. I read among and I say amongst. Yeah, I just really hate clicks. Sometimes I'll let them through when I've got no choice, but yeah, if I can find it, if I can track it down, I will get rid of it.
Presently, they were in among a clump of ragged, leafless shrubs, useless either for concealment or as protection from the wind. As protection from the wind.
Another one.
From the wind.
I was hoping it was that little shape. It's right at the start, isn't it? Yep. Okay.
Protection from the wind.
I think you guys might be my good luck charms. I'm able to get rid of a lot of clicks today that sometimes I wouldn't be able to find.
They halted. Concealment or as protection from the wind. They halted.
That doesn't need to be that big.
Concealment or as protection from the wind. They halted.
But not that soon.
Protection from the wind. They halted. It was vilely cold.
Yes, you've already said that, actually. There is a fair bit of repetition in this book. Some of it, I think, is just because he really wants to hammer some points home. But sometimes I think it might be, him dying. I mean, he was writing this book while dying, which is why it was his last release. And I think there are times when you can sort of feel maybe the cognitive abilities slipping a little bit.
Either for concealment or as protection from the wind. They halted. It was vilely cold.
Yes, Steve, you are getting a bit dry there. You should have a drink. Sometimes I'll go for ages without a drink, though, because there seems to be almost like terminal velocity when you're falling. There's a certain amount of dryness in your mouth where once you reach that point, if you can maintain it perfectly, you don't get a lot of the clicks and buzzes that you would otherwise. But if it's too dry, of course, clicks and buzzes are all you get.
It was vilely cold. It was vilely cold. It was...
Yeah, I think that's better. We'll hit the vial a bit harder.
It was vilely cold.
Cool. 1 second. Waiting for that silence to go in is agonizing. I don't know why it's so slow.
It was vilely cold. The wind whistled. It was vilely cold.
Yes, you've said that.
The wind whistled.
Okay. Yeah. That's it, Joe.
Vilely cold. The wind whistled through the twigs and fretted the occasional dirty-looking crocuses. He put his arm around.
All right. 1 second. Clearly, this is a fairly slow scene too, so there's going to be a lot of big gaps, because I want it to feel ponderous. I had a moment in Brave New World back when I got a lot of comments from it over different chapters, and there was one in particular from when they were up on the mesa and they first experienced the old world settlements outside of the big cities. And if you remember, I had flies, you know, almost constantly in the background, and I had maybe 2 or 3 people commenting on it. One of them just saying, you know, that was really gross. The whole thing felt gross, and you know, I was actually quite happy with that, because that's exactly the idea that I wanted to get across. Sometimes the sensations that you have to put across to your listeners are not pleasant, you know. Again, in Brave New World, when they're torturing all the babies, you know, with the electrified floor and all that sort of stuff, that's a very unpleasant scene to listen to, with screaming babies in the background for like 4 minutes or something. It's really irritating, but it is the feel of the scene. Yet, again, you have to sort of balance how real do you want it to be to what the scene is actually going to be, against, you know, how much you want to irritate your listeners. You know, you don't necessarily want them to find it actually unpleasant, but you do want to set it. So in 1984, I developed a new technique where let's take that Brave New World chapter with the screaming babies in the background. I would have them really loud the first time they came out, wah, 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 and then like fade it to almost background, so you can still hear it, but it's quiet. You know that it's supposed to be there, but it's not going to be irritating you so much. That's sort of the philosophy that I've tried to use in 1984. So you still know about it, but you don't have to have it inflicted on you again and again. Of course, I also had some person complaining about all the bees triggering something when they were listening to that scene. And I had to go and run outside because I was triggered. I was so triggered by your bees. And I was happy to be able to say, well, you must be very pleased to learn that they were actually flies, not bees. I'm not a soft person. I don't like soft complaints. They bug me. I think saying I was triggered by your sound effect is just attention-seeking behavior.
Fretted the occasional dirty-looking crocuses. He put his arm around her waist. There was no telescreen. There must be hidden microphone.
I should also point out, though, I have people around me to tell me when other people's feelings actually matter. So that's good. If I'm supposed to pay attention to someone's triggering, you know. No, that's it. That's exactly it. They're not comfortable stories. They're not comfortable scenes, you know. Yeah.
Nothing.
Just had another drop out there. I don't know if you guys... I mean, I have had comfortable scenes where characters are feeling very...
Nothing mattered. They could have lain down on the ground and done that if they had wanted to. His flesh froze with horror.
That is me trying to audibly demonstrate the capital letters that the author has written that word in. Yeah.
Lain down on the ground and done that if they had wanted to.
Ah, I see. Okay, Jet. Neat. Sometimes I suspect that's when OBS has actually disconnected on my end. I probably still just have to mess around with settings and whatnot, see if I can get it nice and smooth.
And done that if they had wanted to. His flesh froze with horror at the thought of it.
at the thought of sex. They've done so much damage to the sexual identity of the people in Oceania. It's terrible. For obvious reasons, though, sex is free and fun, and they can't control it. So, of course, you know. Although, was it Julia that said something as well about when you're having sex, you're not thinking about the party or the trouble that you might be in, or you know your requirements, what you have to do, going to the community centre later that evening or whatever. And they don't like that. They don't like that there's a time where you're doing something that is even momentarily more important than the party. So yeah, they have to crush sex. They have to destroy it.
Horror at the thought of it. They could have lain down on the ground and done that if they had wanted to. His flesh froze with horror at the thought of it. They could have lain down on the ground and done that if they had wanted to. They could have lain down on the ground and done that if they had wanted to. His flesh froze with horror at the thought of it. She made with horror at the thought. His flesh froze with horror at the thought of it. She made no response.
Yes, they did say something about bit rate in there, but I'm not actually sure how to adjust it. I did a little bit when I was trying to film VR Fallout 4 for my other channel, but yeah, that didn't work very well either. I have a lot more research to do if I want to be able to do this sort of thing regularly.
His flesh froze with horror at the thought of it. She made no response whatever to the clasp of his arm. She did not even try.
That's fine. That's fine. Sometimes you have to let the actor tell you what the timing is.
Ever to the clasp of his arm.
But generally I will tell the actor what the timing is.
She did not even try to disengage herself. He knew now. She did not even try to disengage herself. He knew now what had changed in her. Her face was sallower.
Ah, yes, nice one. We're actually 30 seconds past safety save time. Thank you, Jet. You are correct. I try and do it every minute on the minute. But sometimes, I mean, you'll know what this is like yourself when you get into a work flow and the last thing you want to do is to take a break for 20 seconds to save the file. But you have to make yourself do it.
What had changed in her? Her face was sallower. And there was a long face was sallower.
Sallower. That's a tricky
There
one.
was a long
Tricky one to pick up with my register as well. One of the issues with having a bassy voice is that a lot of sort of fine sounds can be quite difficult to hear.
He knew now what had changed in her. Her face was sallower. And there was a long scar.
Alright, well that's an and, so you don't need all that. And I think you can be trimmed a bit as well.
He knew now what had changed in her. Her face was sallower. And there was a long scar. And there was a long... And there was a long scar, partly hidden by the hair, across her forehead and temple. But that was not the change.
So the thing you have to be aware of with actors, even when the actor is you, is that time feels very different for the performer and the audience. A big gap to the actor might feel like, yeah, I'm really in this moment, this is so great. But to the audience, they might not be there with you. You know, they might just be sitting there wishing that you'd get on with it. So you have to learn to sort of feel that.
Across her forehead.
Which is tricky when you're making an audiobook and the audience isn't in front of you. I'm a theatre actor mostly, so I'm used to having the audience right there. I find TV and film and audiobooks quite difficult because I can't read the audience.
Across her forehead
well.
and temple. But that was not the change. It was that her waist had grown thicker, and in a surprising way had grown thicker.
Sometimes when I'm trying to work out the timing of something like this, right?
It was that her waist had grown thicker, and in a surprising way had stiffened.
That gap between the two statements is I will actually read it along to myself how it all works. Here we go. Reconnection successful. All right. So in this bit we have.
It was that, and in a surprising way.
No, that's too close. Too close. That happens too. It's all right.
It was that her waist had grown thicker, and in a surprising way had stiffened.
That's cool. That's okay. All right.
Way had stiffened. He remembered how once, after the explosion of a rocket bomb, he had helped to rocket bomb. He had.
Ha. They're trying to sneak in your quiet breaths there, Steve. I heard you. I heard you. Thinking you're gonna hide it from me. You can't hide nothing from me.
Explosion of a rocket bomb. He had helped to drag a corpse out of some ruins, and had been out of some ruins, and had been astonished not only out of some ruins, and had been astonished.
There we go. Good.
Out of some ruins, and had been astonished not only by the incredible weight of the thing, but by its rigidity.
Okay, that gap's too big. We'll start it there, then I think it can be just about halved.
Not only by the incredible weight of the thing, but by its rigidity and awkwardness to handle.
Okay, I think that's all right. We'll listen again, make sure.
Not only by the incredible weight of the thing, but by its rigidity and awkwardness.
That one's a little too long, isn't it?
Not only by the incredible weight of the thing, but by its rigidity and awkwardness to handle.
There you go, that's better. That's better. .10:05, so we'll do another save, even though we've just done one, to try and get back on track with saving every minute. Here we go, and done. Good.
To handle, which made it seem more like stone than flesh. Righty, and awkwardness to handle.
Right, so it'll be about there.
But by its rigidity and awkwardness to handle.
Right, here's one thing that I've noticed. When you have a phrase that comes in 3 separate little sections, like this one, generally if you make the second gap just slightly longer than the first gap, it flows really well. It's weird, but it seems to be true. I know sometimes I've said I try and make all the gaps all sort of the same, but that's generally in a list, if you're listing a bunch of things. Yeah, anyway, you'll hear it.
But by its rigidity and awkwardness to handle, which made it seem more like stone than...
In fact, that's almost a bit too close still.
But by its rigidity and awkwardness to handle, which made it seem more like stone than... which made it
too far.
But by its rigidity and awkwardness to handle, which made it seem more like stone than flesh.
There we go. Good. Every time I do that sort of thing, I think of that scene in The Simpsons where they're filming a movie or something like that, and they wanted a cow, but cows don't look like cows on screen, so they sticky taped a bunch of cats together. It's that sort of thing, you know?
More like stone.
Even though it's like, it sounds like an even gap at the end, you know, when you're listening to it. They're not the same length, but it seems like it. It just works. I don't know why.
Bone than flesh. Her body felt like that, which made it seem more like stone than flesh. Her body felt like that.
Tricky timing on this one, not sure. Let's try trimming it, and then we'll see.
Which made it seem more like stone than flesh. Her body felt like that.
No, I think the extra gap works, actually.
Which made it seem more like stone than flesh. Her body felt like that. Her body's
just a little too late.
Which made it seem more like stone than flesh. Her body felt like that.
Wonderful. I'm a little bit worried, actually. A lot of people have asked for like a how-to video on the actual performance, and that's, oh gosh, it's so complicated, so difficult to describe. when so often I'm just sitting there and I'm feeling it. You know, it feels a bit slow or it feels a bit fast, and I just fix it in response to that. So how do you explain the technicalities of it felt wrong, you know?
He remembered
I don't
how
know.
once, after the explosion of a rocket bomb, he had helped to drag a corpse
Isn't that what we just did?
and had been astonished not only
Yes.
by the incredible weight of the thing. He
If,
remembered
if I've done this line perfectly now and all of that work has to be deleted again, this will be like the second time this stream that has happened.
He remembered how once, after the explosion of a rocket bomb, he had helped to drag a corpse out of some ruins, and had been astonished not only by the incredible weight of the thing, but by its rigidity and awkwardness to handle,
No, I think
which
the
made it
first one was
seem more
better.
like stone than flesh. Her body felt like that. Her body felt like that,
I do like that one better though, so we'll delete that.
which made it seem more like stone than flesh. Her body felt like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, also, again, to use some wank, wank. I'm a natural actor as opposed to a trained actor. Like, I went to school and it was all very conflicting to how I wanted to do things. It really didn't work very well because I just feel most of the things I do. I don't sit there and I plan them, you know? Yeah, well, that's it. It's like 15 years later, I can just sort of tell when I think I'm doing something well or not, you know? So, it might be a really short video. Acting by Steve Parker. Just do it for 15 years, and then you'll work out how to do some stuff.
Her body felt like that.
And it's also quite, actually quite a big responsibility. Because I know what it was like when I was a young actor, and I was just seeking information everywhere. And I tried to talk to everyone that was even a bit more, you know, experienced or successful than I was, you know, to see what I could get from them. And like everything they said hit me so hard when you're that hungry for information, you know. And I'm a bit worried that people might lend more weight to my words than they really deserve, because I'm not really a very good actor. I'm not hugely successful. I did a few TV shows, a few movies, and that was about it.
From what it had once been.
I guess if I can say one or two things that might be useful, that would be worth it. I hope. Get ready for failure, I guess, would be the big one, but not in a negative way, just in the knowledge that most auditions you're not going to get picked, you know, and you're going to have to be ready for that sort of thing. You know, you could put all the work in the world into something, and then you show up and, sorry, the colour of your eyes clashes with the colour of the eyes of the star, so we can't use you, you know. It's all very arbitrary, and you sort of have to be happy with that.
From what it had once been. It occurred to him that the texture of her skin would be quite different from what it had once been.
But I don't want to scare people away from the industry either by telling them just horror stories, because it can be great. You know, the good moments are wonderful. Some of the best moments of my life have been on stage, or in front of a camera.
From what it had once been. He did not attempt to kiss her, nor did they speak.
Oh God, yeah, I've got to stop talking about this, because I could go on about this for hours and hours and hours with just, you know, chains of thoughts.
Attempt to kiss her, nor did they speak.
But I know personally 2 people that emptied their savings fund, their life savings they emptied to go off to LA to chase an acting dream, and I could have told them that it wasn't going to work, you know, but it's so hard, because the industry is full of people that make money by telling you that you're great, you know. Showing up on time, yeah, sure. Yeah, no, that statement has some weight, because a lot of people think it's just a party. You know, you show up for the red carpet events and the champagne parties and everyone telling you that you're wonderful, you know. And there's a fair amount of that. But yeah, no, showing up on time, treat it like a job. It is a job. It's a career. It's a craft, you know.
He did not attempt to kiss her, nor did they speak. As they walked back across the grass, she looked directly at him for the first time.
Okay. I've actually already tapped a bunch of my actor friends on the shoulder to say, hey, if you've got any good tips or tricks that you'd like to pass on to some people that are interested, you know, give me a yell. I don't want to bear all the responsibility here.
She looked directly at him for the first time. As they walked back across the grass, she looked directly at him for the first time. As they walked back across the grass, she looked directly at him for the first time. As they walked back across the grass, she looked directly at him for the first time.
No, I like the first one.
It was only a momentary glance, full of contempt and dislike. He wondered whether
Contempt and dislike. Well, how could she feel otherwise? After all the things that have just happened.
glance, full of contempt and dislike. He wondered whether it was a dislike that came purely out of the past, or whether it was inspired also by his bloated face and the water that the wind kept squeezing.
That's a little too much.
Bloated face and the water.
Perfect.
His bloated face and the water that the wind kept squeezing from his eyes.
Add the silence. Oh, come on. Why are you so slow? Fade out for awesome smoothness. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to treat it seriously and try and sink yourself into it. If you can fall in love with your job, I mean, that's the ideal, isn't it? Get really fascinated with the intricacies of what you do.
Squeezing from his eyes. And the water that the wind kept squeezing from his eyes.
They said, twig. I used to live with a guy who worked with the trains, and anytime a train came up in, you know, a TV show or a movie or something, we would all just turn around and look at him, because he was definitely going to say something about whether this scene was realistic or not, you know. And I'm sort of the same with actors. It's difficult to watch any live action performance with me, because I will pick on the actors. If they're terrible, I will let you know.
They sat down on two.
I'm a bit of a douche sometimes. I can be hard to watch TV with. Yeah. Not so much Netflix and chill, more Netflix and listen to Steve criticize the acting of people that have far better careers than he has. Yeah.
They said,
I'm not bitter. I'm not, actually.
They said,
I just can't help myself. Extras in particular irritate me. If you're an extra, it's your job to basically be part of the scene. You're in the background. The last thing you should do is call attention to yourself. So if I notice you as an extra, dude, I just want to pull one of your fingernails off. It's like you are doing the exact opposite of your job right now. You're trying to be noticed because you're a selfish actor and you think this is going to launch your career? Come on now. Just walk through the back of the scene, shut the fuck up, keep your head down. You might get another job tomorrow. Yeah. Yes, I have seen The Room. Clips of it. I could not watch the entire thing. I go I mean, it's the worst. Not just for the acting, which is terrible, and the direction, which is terrible, but because it is the very epitome of what I hate the most about the industry, in that this guy with a fat wallet just walked in and bought himself a career. Fuck off. Oh my God, I hate that so much. So much. Okay, relax, deep breath. It's okay, Steve. You're not in the room now. All right, back to work. But not too close together. He saw that she was about to speak. Anyway, all right. She was about to speak. She moved her side, but not too close together. He saw that. Yeah, that's a common. We cut that not off. Too close together. He saw that she was about too much. Side by side, but not too. You did, Jet. You triggered me. I demand that you treat me extra special. She was. I'm a snowflake. I'm unique. Yeah, it's all right. At least he rolled with the punches, though. You know, he was trying to make the big drama, and when people started laughing at you, he just went, "Oh, hey, yeah, I always intended to make this awesome comedy that everyone laughs at." He saw that she was about to speak. She moved her clumsy shoe a few centimeters and deliberately crushed a twig. Her feet touched a twig. Crushed a twig. Her feet seemed to have grown broader, he noticed. So that last one might be a comma space, not a full stop. Let's check it. Crushed a twig. Her feet seemed to have grown broader. Her feet and deliberately crushed a twig. Her feet seemed to have grown broader, he noticed. I betrayed. He noticed. To have grown broader, he noticed. You know what question I get most from male listeners? How do I do the female voices? Like, particularly the people that haven't actually heard my audiobooks, they cannot imagine how someone with my voice could sound like a woman. And the fact is, of course, I don't. I just drop the bass. You know, that's really all I can do. And I stole the technique from a guy that I heard. I don't even know his name. I was given these recordings of old Isaac Asimov books on a USB by my father before he died. And this guy, he was really good. He was really good. I wish I knew who it was, because I've stolen several techniques from him. And one of them was that a character he was playing was actually a 10-year-old girl. And he did the same thing. He just dropped the bass and performed it like any other character. So, yeah, I just stole that technique completely. And it seems to work. It seems to work. If you do it and you commit to it and you believe it, then it works, you know? If you try and do some fancy, ridiculous voice, and, I believe it, you know, then it's ridiculous. But, yeah. I don't know if there's any men out listening to this ever or anything or whatever, but yeah, good tip. Just drop the bass and perform it like anything else. Broader, he noticed. I betrayed you, she said, bold. I always leave a nice gap when I'm playing Julia or any other female character, just so my voice has plenty of time to settle back into its regular shape, and it doesn't sound like I've gone, "I betrayed you," said Julia. You know, I don't want that. I don't want that mix. I want it to sound like two distinct, different sounds. "I betrayed you," she said boldly. There we go. Now, normally, I would probably have a half-second gap, but I'm going to say that this is quite a slow, ponderous conversation. So we'll start with a second, and then see how that goes. It might be too much, but we'll see when we get in there. "I betrayed you," she said boldly. I'm actually going to trim that down a little bit too. "I betrayed you," she said bold. She said a little bit more. "I betrayed you," she said boldly. A little bit she more. Said bold. "I betrayed you," she said boldly. There we go.
I betrayed you, he said.
Even when I'm reading Winston, I do the same thing. Winston, of course, doesn't have a voice, really. He doesn't have an accent. He is me. I always use my own voice as the main protagonist in the story, just to save my voice box, honestly, because it does take a bit more to do an accent or a voice. But whereas the narrator is pretty flat most of the time, you let all the emotion flood into the characters, so you can still hopefully tell the difference. I hope so. Sometimes it might be trickier than others, but for the most part, I hope it's pretty easy to tell the narrator apart from Winston.
I betrayed you, he said.
Oh, come on. Why? Why is it taking so long to add these silences, he says for the 20th time.
I betrayed you, he said. She gave him another quick look of dislike.
I think part of it is just that this is not exactly a mainstream piece of software, and not exactly top of the line. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure you probably noticed in some of your recordings in Alice in Wonderland, Jed, even though it wasn't like a huge shift from your own voice, there was still a shift, and it was probably quite wearing on your voice box.
She gave him another,
particularly in the big chapters where you had a lot of dialogue.
She gave him another quick look of dislike. Sometimes, she said. Sometimes, she said. Sometimes, she said, they threaten you with something.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone wants an example of a voice, a characterization going wild, I have a really good one for you that I hate to tell you, but it's very true, so I will. If you go back and listen to Brave New World, and you listen to the first time we meet John the Savage, and you listen to his voice there, and then go to the end of the book and listen to John the Savage, and it sounds like two completely different people. But Brave New World was done in a very specific way, not a very good way, a very specific way. Because, as I said, I was making it for my lady love who wanted to hear, Brave New World, and I wanted to experience it with her, so I did not read the book in advance. How you hear it in your chapters, I was reading it along with you at that pace. I would only read that chapter, record that chapter, and then that was it. Yeah, not the best way to do things, and certainly when I came into 1984, I took a lot of experience from those errors and did things better, I hope. I planned out a lot more things. The characters, how big their roles were, and that's how I decided what voice they would get. If you had a really big role, it had to be a voice that I was really quite good at, that I felt confident that I could hold it through a whole book. And then I also recorded example clips of those voices so I could go back and use them as reference material whenever I had to, perform someone in chapter 3 and then in chapter 17 and I hadn't seen them for 14 chapters. You could still work it out by listening to the reference clip, I learned a lot. I've learned a lot over making the full-length novels, as you would expect.
Sometimes, she said, they threaten you with something. Something you can't stand. You with something. Something you can't stand up.
Did I just say something?
Something you can't stand.
Oh.
Something you can't stand.
No, Stephen.
Something you can't.
No. 11:20. Something you can't stand? Is that what she's about to say? Let's see.
Threaten you with something. Something you can't stand up to, can't even think about.
Something you can't stand up to, and then it's just can't even think about.
Threaten you with something. Something you can't stand up to, can't even think about.
Something you can't stand up to, can't even think about. Can't even think about. Yeah, I can't allow that. Sometimes my bogan heritage comes through in my voice. If there's any Americans listening, a bogan is like the Australian version of a redneck, sort of. Not exactly, but it's close enough. And my saying something is very sort of bogan South Australian. It's terrible, terrible.
Threaten you with something. Something you can't stand up.
I think half the reason my voice sounds like it does is that I don't know, because I grew up on the BBC stuff, I listened to all of my Australian compadres and just thought, you sound like a bunch of provincial peasant farmers. This is awful. I refuse to sound like this. So I worked on my voice. And now I sound like this. Hello, my name's Stephen.
Stand up to, can't even think about. And then you say, don't do it to me, do it to... And then you say...
That's it. It is.
And then you say, don't do it to me.
I'm sure there's a bunch of others that will come up in the future, and we'll notice them together and pick on Steve, 'cause that's good. That's a good sport. Should be in the Olympics.
And then you say, don't do it to me, do it to somebody else.
Right, here we go. An interesting point of timing. Normally, I would trim that, you know, absolutely. Look at that gap. And that's right in the middle of a sentence. But the character wants that gap. Okay? Because we'll listen to the statement together.
And then you say...
Wait.
They threaten you with something. Something you can't stand up to, can't even think about. And then you say, don't do it to me, do it to somebody else.
Okay? Now, that gap, of course, is her thinking when she had said, you know, do it to Winston. Yes. So I'm going to leave that gap. Oh, absolutely. Asked. I asked how I could butt the cheek flaps anus. Yeah. It's... yeah. In fact, more and more, like the more I speak and the more I practice, the more I hear the errors that I make every day in my speech.
And then you say, don't do it.
To tongue the tones of tertiary twisties.
You say,
yes.
don't do it to me, do it to somebody else. Do it to so-and-so.
Do it to you. Do it to Winston. Yes. So on this occasion, for this speech, I'm going to let Julia choose her own timing, unless she does something ridiculous or messes up a line.
Think about.
You absolutely should have played Julia, Jet. I wish I'd thought of it earlier.
Think about.
Oh well.
And then you say, don't do it to me, do it to somebody else. Do it to so-and-so. And perhaps you might pretend afterwards that it was only a trick, and perhaps you...
Yes, that sounded a bit tongue-tidy. I had a feeling I'd have another crack at that one.
And perhaps you might pretend afterwards that it was only a trick, and that you just said...
How are the audio levels, by the way? I have no idea how to change it, but would it be... I guess you wouldn't want it as extreme as gaming. I mean, the gaming, they want the game to be at like 50% and your mic to be at 100. I guess we don't want that much of a difference here because we're editing audio.
And afterwards that it was only a trick, and that you just said it to make them stop and didn't really mean it, but that isn't true. At the time when...
Oh, look at that huge gap. That's almost a second and a half. That's huge. That's monstrous. Let's make sure it feels okay. Ah, good. Thank you, Jan.
To make them stop and didn't really mean it, but that isn't true. At the time when it happens, you do mean it.
Oh, I don't know.
You really mean it, but that isn't true.
We are 2 minutes late, I think. Wow, no, we're nearly 4 minutes late for a safety save. Thank you, Jet. Oh boy. 4 minutes. Nice. Nice. Oh, dude, you're totally helpful. You're totally helpful. No, it's not obnoxious at all. Not even slightly. I am grateful.
I didn't really mean it, but that isn't true. At the time when it happens.
No, that's too... It's too long. It is too
Really
long,
mean
isn't it?
But that isn't true. At the time when it happens.
That's better.
You do mean it.
That's more reasonable.
You think there's no other way of...
And then she goes on again. Yeah. I think a lot of this is sort of a case of Steve being uber actor while this was going on, you know? I was really feeling the scene, feeling the time, and that's great for the actual performance, but Steve, the editor, has to say, you know, come on, let's speed it up there a bit, Steve. You've been a little self-indulgent there, mate. Yeah.
That isn't true. At the time when it happens, you do mean it. You think there's no other way of saving yourself, and you're quite ready to save yourself that way. You want it to happen to the...
Alright, I'm going to call that one a comma. So we'll go zoom in for half a second. And I don't think we'll need much more than that. I think that will be alright.
You're quite ready to save yourself that way. You want it to happen to the other person.
Yeah, good. Because it was the conclusion of a statement that she'd been making, I felt like I could trim that one quite a bit. And because that was the conclusion of a statement, I hope we should be able to kick in the 1 second for this one.
You don't give a damn what they suffer. You want it to happen to the other person. You don't...
I think even that can be trimmed. It's following through. It's carrying on.
Ready to save yourself that way. You want it to happen to the other person. Save yourself that way. That way. That way.
Aha!
That way. That way.
Hello, little click.
That way. 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 Way.
Oh, can it be that simple? Oh, I love it when it looks like that. Like, oh, where's the click? Oh, it's the one little bump on the line. Delete! Thank you.
That way. You want... You're quite ready to save yourself that way. You want it to happen to the other person.
Lovely.
You don't give a damn what they suffer. All you care about is yourself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so another half second, I think. Yeah. Well, he is starting to get a little bit self-indulgent. We'll have to speed some of this up. Maybe a bit more than half a second, though. That might be a little bit too close. Let's have a look.
And what they suffer, all you care about is your...
Yeah, that's a little bit too close. So let's try that one. And then we'll blank all that.
What they suffer, all you care about is yourself.
Good. And
All you care about is about it.
right. And then Winston responds. So 1 second or half a second for a response. Normally, well, I mean, it depends on the dialogue and how closely they're speaking to each other. Normally, not even half a second.
Care about is yourself. All you care...
No, that's too long. That's too long.
All you care about is yourself. All you care about...
No, that's too short.
All you care about is yourself. All you care about is yourself. He echoed.
There we go.
All you care about is yourself. He echoed.
There's a huge difference as well between finishing on a hard sound, like a T or an S or a D, and finishing on a soft sound like an M or an F. Huge difference in how sharply you can break down to the silence.
About is yourself. He echoed. He echoed.
Right. See, now, this is sort of what I was talking about before with Winston's voice sometimes sounding too much like the narrator. Here...
All you care about is yourself. He echoed.
there's almost no difference, which is why I read it again. So now we'll listen to it.
All you care about is yourself, he echoed.
And it just sounds a little bit more different, helps keep that boundary clear between Winston and the narrator.
And after that, you don't feel the same towards the other person any longer. All you care about is yourself, he echoed. And after that, you... And that doesn't need a second as yourself, he echoed. And after that, you don't feel the same towards the other person any longer. It's the other person any longer. Ooh. And after that, you don't feel the same towards the other person any longer. Any longer.
Yeah, that was terrible. Do it again.
You don't feel the same towards the other person any longer.
That was still terrible.
No, he said. You don't feel the same towards the other person any longer.
Thanks. That's the best you could leave me to work with, Steve. Jesus.
And after that, you don't feel the same towards the other person any longer.
They're both awful. Okay, so we have to write this one down as well. What's that? 1202? Is that right? Can't quite see. Yeah, 1202. 1202.
You don't feel the same towards the other person any longer.
And you don't feel the same, and you don't feel the same towards the other person any longer, right?
You don't feel the same towards the other person any longer. Any longer.
Good.
You don't feel the same towards the other person any longer. You don't...
All awful.
You don't feel the same towards the other person any longer.
No.
Person any longer. Any longer.
Yeah, that...
And any longer.
Normally I would try and fix the click, but this one...
And any longer.
It's 2 clicks.
And any longer.
If we listen to it.
Any longer. Any longer.
Click, click.
Any longer.
You know? It clicks on the way in and out of the shape, so it's not really fixable. I'll just re-record that instead.
The other person any longer.
No.
Than any longer.
No.
He said.
No.
He said.
Yeah. That was way too short.
No. He said.
Might have another he said there to choose from as well. We'll see. How on the ball was I?
You don't feel this.
Nope.
No. He said.
Where does that put us? About a third of the way through. That's pretty good. That's pretty good for a couple of hours work. Yeah. Man, I so desperately want to be able to make enough money out of this that I can actually hire people to do some of this editing for me. I could get chapters out much, much, much faster. It's all the little edits. I do like that SoundForge leaves you a blue line to show you every edit that you've made during this session. That's nice. That's fun. But yeah, if I could afford, to hire, editors and that sort of thing, I could get things out a lot faster, and I would like to. I mean, there's no end of books that we can read. We can do this forever. It will never ever end. We have all the source material in the world. The only thing slowing us down is how quickly I can make things.
Towards the other person any longer.
No,
he said.
All right. Well, we might call it there for today. Thank you everyone who has come in to say hello during all of this. Yeah, I hope this was moderately interesting. Thanks very much to Jet in particular, who's been incredibly helpful today and in the past and forever. Because you're an awesome person. Excellent. Yeah, we'll be back sometime soon. I really enjoyed this, and I actually found it quite productive as well. So yeah, I'll definitely do more editing stuff. In particular, as Jet was mentioning before, the actual the part of soundscaping, putting all the sound effects together and the backgrounds and all that sort of thing. So we'll do a bit of that as well, and even possibly at some stage a recording session, but we'll see about that. We'll see about that. Nice. Oh, excellent. No, I'm glad it was interesting. Excellent. So I'm off. Have yourselves a good day, night, evening, afternoon, morning, whatever, wherever you are, and all of that sort of thing. And I will catch you on. Okay. Bye bye. Thank you.